For my final project, I have decided to discuss the topic of buoyancy. I have set up an experiment in front of me that contains 2 glasses of water, same volume, except one is just tap water and the other one is tap water with then 3 tablespoons of salt dissolved in it. I then have a carton of eggs, which are normal raw eggs, same mass, and we're going to drop the eggs in the water and see if they float or if they sink. So the first egg in the tap water simply sinks to the bottom, as you can see, and now is resting on the bottom of the cup. And then in the salt water, the egg bobs up and down a little bit, but as you can see, it rests as floating on the water. And that is because of the buoyant force. So the buoyant force in the water of just tap water is not strong enough to lift the egg because of the density of the water. But once you put salt in the tap water, the density becomes greater, which allows the buoyant force to then be greater and hold up the weight of the egg. I have a slide of calculations that I will explain now.
Okay, here we are at my slide of calculations. So when buoyancy is talked about, a lot of people are wondering, how is that cruise ship floating on the water? How is an iceberg not sinking down to the bottom of the ocean? And by showing that with a simple egg and cup calculation, helps kind of get the feeling of what is actually happening with these objects. So the force buoyant is equal to the weight of the water that is, or fluid that is dispersed underneath the object. So here with the simple egg, we have the salt water, which is less dense than the tap water. So therefore the buoyant force is equal to the weight of the egg. In normal tap water, you see that the egg simply floated down to the bottom and that the force weight I have shown on the screen is greater than the force buoyant and the force normal combined. And on the salt water, you can see that they are equal, and that is why it floats. So I have listed the densities and the specific gravities of the water. So you can tell, like, yes, we have a greater saltwater density, so that therefore we have a greater force buoyant, and that allows it to be equal to the weight. And we also see that the egg is not as dense as just the tap water, and that is why as well it floats. So just to get in conclusion with all of this, buoyancy is a very interesting phenomenon that when you see a huge cruise ship, you do wonder for a second, how is that floating? And you just have to think about the weight of the water dispersed by the boat is equal to the weight pushing down, therefore it can float on the surface. And if it wasn't, it most likely would sink. So I just believe that this was a very cool topic and I wanted to discuss it. Thank you. And here are my sources.